My
My
name is
name is
Herbert
Herbert.
May, M-A-I, excuse me. I'm born August 29, 1929, in Germany, in a city called Würzburg, where my father was a butcher master, which he inherited from his father, and had served mostly German Jews.
So when did you leave Germany and how did you get to Jungfernhof?
How did I get to Jungfernhof?
You had to go to the station.
Well, we had to go meet in a railroad station, about 400 German Jews, and they took us to Nuremberg first, and then on the way to Riga, Latvia. And there was a camp there where they put us there, and it was like a farm, and we could have escaped if we wanted
Put your
to,
head up.
but nobody did. There was nowhere. Where is you gonna go? Nobody knew where to go, so we just stood there.
What was it like to go from the train station to the camp?
And they took us out of the trains, and they told us we're gonna march to the camp. And it was in the winter time. It was about 5, 6 inches of snow, and they told us whoever cannot walk will be driven by trucks. So my mother said, "Come on, we're gonna go on a truck." And I said to my mother, "No, we're gonna walk." Excuse me. So we walked, and when we got there, the next couple of days, we understood that people that went into the trucks were all killed. So it was muscle gewesen that we walked.
And what are your significant memories of Jungfernhof? Are there any experiences that stand out for you?
And there was one experience where I was walking on the street, and there was a truck standing by, and all of a sudden they hollered to me, "Come over here, come over here." And I started running away. And again, I understood later on that these people that came in on that truck were also killed. So it was a couple of times that I was lucky.
Mm-hmm.
It.
And you were at the camp with your family. Who were you at the camp with?
I was with my father and my mother.
Mm-hmm. And did you stay? Did you work on the farm? How did you survive there? What did you do?
I took care of the animals, of the cows and the sheep. I used to take them in the morning. I used to take them on the grounds where they were grazing. And in the evening, I used to take them back home. And I used to milk them. And every one day there was a woman, a little woman. She looked at that time like she was 90 years old. And every day she brought me a little bit of food. I never spoke to her, never talked to her, but every day there was a little brook, and over the brook there was a little bridge, and she put a pot with some soup or stew underneath the bridge, and I ate it, and I was glad to have something to eat. And every
So,
day she brought some stuff for me to eat.
so this is an unusual story that not many people know about.
Well, how could anybody know about it unless I told them?
It's true. That's why you're so important.
Yeah.
Are there other stories you want to share? Anything else you want us to know?
And it was the time my father got sick, and they took him to Riga so critical on the hospital. And usually when you hear things like that, that's the end of you. But he actually was taken to a hospital and he recuperated. And then later on, we were going to Riga in the ghetto. And there was my father again. He was taking care of an apartment house.
So you had a reunion.
We had a reunion. We lived more or less in an apartment house, and we had one room that we ate and slept. And in the morning we used to go to a station, and people used to come, just give me 2 tubes, give me 3 tubes. And I used to take them and give them work with no pay naturally, but I were lucky to get some work, you get something to eat.
So is there anything, how do we learn from your memories? Why is it important to remember? Why should we remember the past?
Well, there's really no reason why you should remember, because you only hope it will not happen again. But you see it right now, it's happening in the Ukraine, and somehow it's a different time today. At least we have a country which called Israel. We have more power than we ever had before. That's wonderful.
I agree. I think we can stop now. And I think this was wonderful. I think you did a great job. And we'll be able to put this into that little sequence of interviews. And then I want, our historian wants to interview you. And I would like to have a meeting with you and Helen and your son holding the wimple. I think the story.
That's very hard to do because we don't live near each other.
I know. When does he come again?
We never know.
Ah. That's how it is with kids.
And that thing is 16 feet long.
I know. It's so hard to photograph. But maybe on Zoom, if you were to sit next to each other, you could put it in your laps and you could hold it and talk about it. Because that's such a beautiful story. And I know Helen has a lot of memory about that.
Yeah.
And I think we should really absolutely do that.
That's when they gave it to you and we went to Würzburg. There's a picture of it in the paper in Würzburg. When was that taken? Where we got the thing?
Helen, you look very fancy.
Oh, don't I? I just came home. Oh, please, my fancy. It's hot here. June 15, 1998, in the Stadt Würzburg paper. It was on the front page, the two of us, when he received the wimple.
So you have
German.
You have a picture of that?
Yes.
Yes.
So one of our historians might live near you. I'm not so sure if he does, but it's possible that he could come and interview you and take, a picture of that and a picture of you both together. That we could, really develop that story because it's really unusual and it's a really beautiful object. It has.
There's a picture. We have it on the wall. I don't know if you can see it.
Ah.
You see the wimple?
I can. Try holding it up a little bit more. Yeah, okay, that's good. Or move it a little forward toward the screen. Yeah, there's a reflection in the way. Okay. All right. That's good. Ah, wait. That is good. Okay. Can you say a couple of words about the wimple?
What can you say about the wimple? He didn't even know it was till he got it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. Do you remember when you were 3 years old and you got the wimple? Ah.
That's Helen and me.
That's so nice. What a beautiful picture. What a beautiful couple.
We don't look like this
Oh,
anymore.
God, no.
She got
Well,
blonde and I got white.
yeah, what can we do?
The wimple is a peculiar thing. In Germany, the custom is that when people got a baby, you made what is called a wimple, which is a band like here in America. You take the two separate dollars and you roll them together, and then you put something around to hold them together.
Torah.
The Torah.
Yeah.
Germany was that if you got a baby, you made a wimble and you wrote something on there, and you brought it to the synagogue to put around the Torah. But you had to wait till the baby was clean or didn't make in the
About 3 years old. Yeah.
didn't make in the diapers anymore. So mine was obviously made too by my mother, and it was brought to the synagogue. And where it happened after that, nobody knows, because the temple was burned down and the wimble disappeared. Till one day somebody called me from Würzburg, who was a caretaker for most of the Jewish items. He called me, says, Herbie, we found your wimble. I says, where did you find it? He says, I don't know. It came into this synagogue. Nobody knows where it came from. So then they asked me to come to Würzburg to take hold of the wimble. So we made arrangement that we went to Germany, and we went in the synagogue, and we danced around with the wimble. Made it was a big to-do to get something like that after so many years. And
They were dancing around him.
Like a wedding.
yeah, and they gave me the wimble, and I brought it now to America, and it's in my house now. And one of my sons said one time, he looked, he says, there's one picture hanging on the wall when you die I would like to have, and the wimble I would like to have. So it found a home, otherwise I would have given it to some kind of synagogue or something.
Yeah.
I went once to Germany, and I brought them the villain.
Uh-huh.
Dylan, that was from your uncle.
And that was from my uncle.
Yeah.
Also, and we gave it to not a Jewish, not how, there are no more Jews, but they have a little temple which they keep as a remembrance or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Europe is sadly without Jews, and regretfully
Yeah,
so.
now in those towns, there are Jews again,
There are lots of them.
but no German Jews,
Right.
mostly Russian Jews.
Right. Right. So when you were in, I have a few more questions for you about Jungfernhof.
Yeah,
Do you remember did you ever have to dig graves?
no,
You never did.
no.
Do you remember when there were bodies that were piled up near the barn?
Yes, I remember that, because
Did
they couldn't bury him because the grounds were frozen.
right. Do you remember, did the Rabbi Karlebach, did he ever say Kaddish over those bodies?
I do not remember.
Yeah. And
so many things that I should remember, but I don't. It's such a long time ago.
I know.
70 years, 80 years ago, 75 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, as you get older, your memory gets worse, and you don't remember many of these things.
Yeah, or some things jump back at you and all of a sudden they're as clear as day.
That's
You never know. Is there anything else that jumps back at you? Did you have friends at the camp? Did you play as a kid? You're 12 years old. You should have been playing.
No, I wasn't playing. There was no way of playing.
No way to play. But you did have a bar mitzvah.
Yes, I had a bar mitzvah.
Do you remember it?
Yes, I remember it.
Were there people, was your family present? Was it a
Yes.
big group of people that watched, or were you?
I can't say if you would call it a big group or a small group, but there was a certain amount of people, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30. I don't remember anymore. And there was a Rabbi Kalabach and a few other religious Jews. They made more or less it, I don't know how you say it, like
Bar
a
mitzvah.
service, like a service.
Simcha. Yeah. And do you remember what your Torah Portia was?
No.
Hmm. Did you, was that,
My family was not that religious.
uh-huh. Did you speak Hebrew? Did you learn Hebrew?
No, no. I went to Jewish school and we just were taught certain kind of Jewish things, but I never spoke Hebrew. In those days, nobody spoke Hebrew. That
So,
Hebrew language just came later on in years in Israel, like a new language.
yeah,
Hebrew was never spoken as you speak a language. It was the words of the Torah, but not a speaking language.
how many languages did you speak? Did you speak Yiddish?
After the war, because I was together with only German Jews, and German Jews did not speak Jewish.
Uh-huh.
Only Polish and Russian and the eastern Jewish part of Europe, the people spoke Jewish. German Jews didn't know anything about Jewish language.
Right, right. So was your family assimilated? Did you celebrate Christmas?
No, we only celebrated deep Jewish tradition,
Uh-huh.
like Hanukkah and Pesach.
Yeah,
And Pesach.
yeah.
And my father, he had a kosher, not a kosher butcher store, but it was called in those days Neu kosher. It meant Ochsen, Kalb und Hammelfleisch, beef, lamb, and veal meat.
Uh-huh.
And it was only purchased mostly by German Jews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was, do you have a last memory of Jungfernhof?
Yes,
Which was what?
I remember when we used to ride with the horses, and like I said, I used to be in charge of the cows and the sheep. I used to take them every day to graze them. In the evening, I used to bring them home.
Was that somehow a comforting time of spending? Was it peaceful?
Yes,
Did anyone watch you? Were there guards over you, or were you had the freedom?
there was only guards on the entrance to the farm, but they didn't do anything, and you could walk any place you wanted.
Uh-huh.
It was not a camp like you were shot if you walked out.
Right. And were there ever fences at the camp?
Pardon?
Were there ever fences at the camp? Like a fence around?
Fence around
No,
it.
this camp was a farm.
So there was never a
no
fence.
no fence, no guards, no nothing.
And do you remember the pond? I'm told some people remember it and some people don't.
I do not. I talked the other day about my friend with that, and he didn't remember that either. I don't ever remember a pond.
So you do not remember a pond. You remember a stream with a bridge, but no pond.
I remember the river that
Oh,
in the long way was called Duna.
yeah. That you remember.
That I remember. That was attached to the farm.
But where did that old woman leave food for you? By a stream or by the river?
By a stream, not by the river. It was a little river.
So there was a little river on the land.
Right.
I haven't seen that there. It's interesting. But
No,
what's there now is a pond.
that was at least a mile away.
It was
Because
at least a mile away.
the stream,
So
the
in other
river-
words,
the big river was right next to it.
the farm where you took the animals, you were a mile away from the camp?
Practically,
Really?
yeah.
And
I could have walked out and walked away
hmm,
with no problem. But where was I going to go?
right, right. And do you remember where, when they blew up the ground to bury the people that had died, do you remember where that was? Was it on the edge of the camp? Was it where the potato field was? Was it near the woods?
No, I do not remember.
Yeah. But you remember the water spigot and that was near. How many buildings were on the land?
I don't really remember. They were mostly barns. The animals were inside.
So could you say there were 10 buildings or 20 buildings or 5 buildings?
I do not remember.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Remember there was one barracks that we used to sleep in. And the first time when we first came there, the first couple of days we lived in one of those barns and the doors were open and it was cold and snowing. That I remember.
Right. It was very cold. And did people have winter coats, or did the Germans take away the winter coats?
No, they all had coats or something to keep them.
Uh-huh.
They took the luggage away at the
The
train
luggage they
station.
took away, we had nothing.
So you never saw your luggage again?
No. And every once in a while a new transport came. The luggage came, but the people disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're so lucky. You're so lucky to have survived, and that is behind you. That is no longer how you must live.
That's why you don't hardly try to think about it anymore, because it certainly was not good times.
No.
And I was 13 years old, and I lost my parents. They went to Auschwitz and they got killed there. And I was all alone. I didn't have no brothers, no sisters, no aunt, no uncle. I had to scrounge for myself to stay alive.
Yeah. It's really, the Holocaust is just a terrible story. And
Yeah, the old stories, and there's so many books out that you can read.
yeah,
You do not have the feelings anymore than when you were there.
yeah,
And you are afraid of being killed.
yeah.
I just read a book
Yeah.
that takes place in Latvia during the war. I don't know, it's called something with the occupation. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful what they did to those people. It's just inhuman.
It's horrible. And, and the fact that this camp doesn't have a sign, that no one has made a memorial there, and that Germany and Austria know about the camp. And, what was the problem? That no one took responsibility to do that. So I
And
think,
the ones which are, how should I say, which the ones that did it don't want to talk about it. And
right,
by now, none of them alive anymore
right,
because 1945, when we got there, they must have been at least 20 years old. So
right.
today, 20 and 70 is 90. How many people are alive at night?
Right. I have another question. Do you remember Sex girlfriend Ollie?
I remember Sect, and I remember when his girlfriend came once into the barn, and I was in the barn too. She was a good-looking girl, blonde girl.
So I was told that she was very nice to Jews, that she would intervene and make sex, that he would sometimes just take people into the forest and kill them.
Yes.
What?
He took people into the woods and killed them. Yes.
And I never seen that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Well, this guy, Sect, was a soldier like any other soldier, and that was his girlfriend, which is a normal thing between a man and a woman. And as far as I'm concerned, she didn't have anything to do with the Jews.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to know if we can find her family and whether they would have things to say. But there's not enough information to know who she was.
I don't even remember her. I don't think anybody knows her name or
I think
knew
her
her.
I think her first name was Ollie, but no one knows her last name.
I don't even know the first name.
Yeah. And you don't know how old she was. Who knows? Probably in her 20s.
No,
And did you ever interact with Sec directly?
no, like the closest that I ever came to him was when he came in the barn where the cows were, and I was in the barn, and he was with his girlfriend in the barn. Came to show what it looked like. I
Yeah.
never spoke to her.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody spoke to her.
Yeah. Ah,
Everybody was afraid of because they could shoot you, and there was no repercussion. Nobody
right,
did.
right,
Nobody was punished for it.
right.
They could shoot and kill any Jew, and there was no punishment. They just took them and buried them.
Yeah.
How about the hanging? The hanging, you said.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. There was one time we had all come on a marked blood slide, and they built
Gallows?
what do you call it?
Gallows.
A gallows, and they hung about 3 or 4 people because they stole some food somewhere. That's the first time in my life that I ever seen people getting hung.
So we have that story. Someone found that story about a guy named Kaufman who was hung, but they only identified one person. But you're saying that they hung 3 or 4 people?
At least 3 that I remember
Really?
at one time.
Hmm.
They hung them at one time, but it was not one time, it was a few people.
So my guess is that these historians are going to want to talk to you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think you'd be ready to do that? They're
Yeah.
nice. Actually, we're working with 3, 4 super historians.
Yeah.
Um,
Most likely I would be available for that.
yeah. I also want to say that it means so much to me that you come to our meetings. I think that in some ways, this is what we can do to say thank you for surviving and sharing your
Well,
stories with
the
us?
trouble when I look at my picture on this on the computer here, I look like a pretty healthy, normal man, but I'm not really. These days I have a lot of problems with walking, a lot of problems, not just a little bit. It's very hard for me to get around.
Yeah. Yeah, well, at least you're getting medical care and you have a loving wife and you have a safe home, and those are the good things.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I think we can stop, and thank you so much. And what I'm going to do is work with my son to take pieces of this and put it into that little video that we have. We have 6 people interviewed. And so you're in that interview, but we didn't have your face and we didn't have you speaking clearly. And now I think we can do that, and that will complete that tape. And I'm really grateful and happy that you were able to do this.
Well, whatever I can do for you, I'm gladly doing it.
Well, the feeling is mutual. So we are going to meet again on July 10th. And I'll send that notice out.
There is such a book out there. It's called Die Würzburger Juden.
So that's the book of you and Fred.
Right.
So we need to get the name and publisher of that book. I need to make a page of every published book about this camp. And so that book needs to be on it.
It's not about the camp.
It's about it's about Würzburg.
Jews that lived in Würzburg at various times, and then it goes into one section which is about the Holocaust, and they show a picture of Herbie's father, Fred's father, and there's a story in there that he wrote a lot of things to his aunts and uncles before he came to this country. He wrote them a letter, what he had gone through. And, but it's not, it doesn't talk about Jungfernhof, Herbie.
But it's still, it's about
That's just the Würzburger Juden means.
It's Roland Flotter wrote the book.
Okay.
I get mail, he's on Facebook every day.
So,
Roland Flotter.
okay, let me see if I can write his name down. So the name of the book is
Die Würzburger Juden.
Okay. My German is terrible. So it's Würzburger Jugend.
The Jews of Würzburg.
And who was the author?
The author is Roland.
Yeah.
Roland, Roland, Flotter, F like Frank, Lade. He's still alive.
He used to work for the Würzburger newspaper.
The Post in Würzburg. He worked for them for many years. We met him several times whenever they had something where we went over there. He actually interviewed us for the picture we showed you. Came to our hotel and we took that picture. So 1990.
Yeah. I mean, Austria didn't do that for the survivors. Austria was much less enthusiastic about memory. So Germany, as best it can, has tried to remember the past. And in fact, it sets an example that no other country matches.
Yeah.
But it's still not good enough because the history is so terrible.
They didn't hang enough of them.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
They didn't even hang that guy from Jungfernhof. He had no right to live.
So he was given a life sentence. One of the historians I would like to have talk with you. He was given a life sentence, but he was released before he died.
That's right. I know.
So Yeah, justice was never served.
I
So
mean,
the
you
fact,
take a gun and shoot somebody that's just walking in front of you.
yeah, yeah.
That's what they did.
So that's really why we're trying to, capture as much as we can for this project so we can say, this happened there. I mean, can you imagine the first concentration camp in Latvia and it was never documented, never
Well, the first concentration camp in Latvia was in Riga, was
was
the ghetto.
the ghetto. Yeah,
And the ghetto was only occupied by Latvian Jews or Jews from Riga. And before the Würzburger Jews or the German Jews came to Riga, they took them all out and in the woods and killed them
In
all
that forest
to make room for the German Jews.
for the
just it's hard to believe that they had these plans and that they carried them out. It's hard to believe.
They made them lie down on top of each other. They knew they were going to be shot
Yeah,
in that Rumbula, whatever it's called, forest.
memorial. They did the same in Brzezinski. Do you remember the day that the Jews were taken to Brzezinski? There was 1,800 Jews. It was March 26, 1942.
Don't remember.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And they took mostly elderly and children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's in practically every camp. The first things to go. You see these pictures on the television sometimes where they're marching these little children between two fences.
Yeah.
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 I mean, today you would get all kinds of punishment today. But they
Right.
would do all these people and they didn't do nothing for them.
Right.
Here you get something done to you, you get a couple of $1 million. These German Jews, what did they got? They gave them a couple of $1,000.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well,
It's
some of the
really
transports and they're
terrible.
not there. You know that?
So I don't know, but time to go back, take a rest, enjoy the day as best you can. And we're doing the best we can.
I know you do. It's good
So
for
we'll
you.
see what happens. But hopefully we'll make a memorial and we'll have all as much documented as we can. And the next generation will have to proceed. Is there any last thought you have about memory? Again, why are we working so hard to preserve this memory? Why do we do this?
We're trying to remember, just like you're trying to remember the Auszug aus Ägypten,
Egyptian.
when the Jews from Egypt left, and they worked also for their lives. And this is more or less the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, this was organized by people which were supposed to be well educated, very intelligent people, and they did something like that, and nobody stopped them. And I always say, if the German Jews would be allowed to be in the German army, they would have marched in the front,
Mm,
because they all says, I'm German.
right. Right. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope we take lessons and we
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 hope.
never take
something.
lessons. We never
Yeah.
take lessons. You see that today, there's more anti-Semitism all over the world than there ever was before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even though when I was a little boy, they used to call me you lousy Jew or you stink Jew with telephone.